Hello and welcome to my first video of 2026. With the full intention of moving into this new year with a bang, I'm presenting my tried and tested recipe for a classic Belgian Dubbel. The end results of this brew offer a beer true to the monastery, but the methods used here are very much for the modern homebrewer. So let's get started. Let's begin with a fast look at the recipe's vital statistics so you can see what is on offer. As you can see, the recipe offers an approximate ABV of 6.8%, making it a beer that you can savour and explore with its great level of complexity. The BU-GU ratio, shown almost at the bottom, shows the relationship between bitterness and alcohol at 0.35, which offers a very easy drinking experience. The recipe for this one can be found in full within the video's description, which is underneath the video window when viewed on a desktop computer. You will also find a link there to the full recipe on Brewhouse, which can be used free of charge with some restrictions. As always, I strongly suggest that you fully convert the recipe before ordering in your ingredients so that you're actually brewing the recipe as intended. I also strongly suggest that you brew this recipe as is the very first time, rather than actually tweaking it at all, as tweaks are actually in place to bring this recipe into a very good shape already. Otherwise, the work I have done here is rather a waste of time. I have an easy guide to recipe conversion using Brewhouse on my channel as shown on screen now. Within this video, this recipe is being brewed using a Grainfather G40 brewing system to the volume of 19 litres, which is the equivalent of 5 US liquid gallons. But as part of the conversion process, this can be scaled and shaped to suit your own brewing system and volume requirements. Let's now look at the water, a vital element to any beer. Shown on screen is the water profile that I recommend for using with this recipe. Naturally, using the right water profile is very important. After all, beer is mostly water and its balance is vital so that it suits the beer that you're brewing. This brown balanced profile from Brewhouse works incredibly well, but represents just one way to go here, of course. So if you have a different profile that you really enjoy with this kind of beer style, then by all means go with that. Brewhouse has extremely good documentation on how to use the software to make the necessary water changes too, which makes the whole process very easy. I suggest that all brewers, irrespective of experience, start treating their water as soon as possible for the very best of end results. You may well be surprised how easy this actually is. Let's now pick up the brew at the mash preparation stage. I have already preheated the mash water to the first step's temperature and have added all of the malt. I am using the Kirkland mash mixer to efficiently but quickly mix all of the grain to ensure that there are no dry clumps and that we have a good mix. If you are doing this manually with a mash paddle, then I strongly suggest that you gradually add the grain a kilo or so at a time and then mix before adding more. This does slow the process down, of course, but it does ensure that you have a good mix and no dry clumps, which is vital for a full conversion of your starches into sugar. With that now done, let's now start the mash, and shown on screen is the mash schedule for this one. At 69 degrees Celsius or 156 degrees Fahrenheit, we're favouring the enzyme alpha amylase, which breaks starch into larger, less fermentable sugars. The end result here is a beer that's fuller, richer and rounder on the palate. This involves having an increased body and mouthfeel, more residual sweetness and a softer, more malt-forward profile. The end beer finish is also a little bit higher in gravity, of course. This is the perfect mash temperature when you want styles like a Belgian Dubbel or porters, stouts or brown ales to feel bigger and more satisfying, even if the alcohol level isn't high. Here is a look a little further into the mash, and you can see that the colour is forming nicely. Let's now take a closer look at the grain bill for this Belgian Dubbel and break down what each ingredient brings to the beer. Doubles are all about rich malt complexity along with layers of dark fruit, so each ingredient in this recipe plays a specific role in creating that signature character. First up is Pilsner malt, making up 65% of the grist. This is the backbone of the beer, light, clean and slightly sweet. It provides the fermentable base without adding heavy flavours, letting all of the speciality malts and yeast character shine. Belgian beers often rely on a simple foundation, and Pilsner malt is perfect for that. Next is Munich malt at 16%. This is where we start building that deep malty richness. Munich adds warm bread crust, toasted grain and a gentle malt sweetness. It fills out the mid palate and gives the beer its classic depth and fullness without making it heavy. Now we come to dark candy sugar at 7%, a crucial ingredient in Belgian brewing. This sugar will add some residual sweetness to the end beer and adds extra alcohol too without bringing extra heaviness. It also adds flavours of raisin, plum and dark caramel that deepen the complexity, as well as the beer's end colour. This is not used at the mash stage though, we will add this later within the boil. Caramunich I at 4% adds another layer of caramel and light toffee flavouring, furthering the complexity of the flavours here. This malt boosts colour, enriches the sweetness and supports the dark fruit notes. It also helps improve body and head retention. Next is Aroma malt, also at 4%, also known as aromatic malt. This is a potent specialty malt that brings intense malty aroma, think honey, toasted grain and gentle cookie-like notes. It enhances the overall bouquet of the beer and actually gives the malt profile more complexity too. And finally Special B at 4%, the star of many Belgian dark ales and one of my favourite specialty grains for dark beers. This malt delivers those unmistakable flavours of raisin, fig, prune and burnt sugar. It adds deep colour, a rich dried fruit character and the classic dark sweetness that defines a Belgian Dubbel. Together these fermentables create the perfect balance of warmth, depth, fruitiness and drinkability that makes a classic Belgian Dubbel so special. Next up we have the Sparge. This is our opportunity to wash out those sugars that are trapped within the grain bed and top up our volume to the required level before the boil. Moving to the boil phase now and look at that beautiful protein head that has formed. Sadly we must clear this before we go any further though, as if we do not then we risk a boil over and that is never any fun. At this stage it's important to stir that foam back into the wort rather than skimming it off. These proteins actually play an important role later on. They contribute to body, mouthfeel and head retention in the finished beer. If we remove too much of this foam the beer can end up feeling thin or lacking a stable head. As you can now see on screen, this one has a modern boil time of 30 minutes. The benefit here is not only are we saving 30 minutes but most importantly we are not boiling away the important flavours of our grain bill. You can also see our hop schedule with the additions at 30 and 15 minutes. The hop of choice here is Hallertauer Mittelfrueh, which provides a soft noble bitterness that balances the malty sweetness without competing with it. These hops offer a very low intensity, which is exactly what you want in a Dubbel, where hops stay in the background. You can expect light hints of herbal spice, a gentle earthiness, and a faint floral character that complements the Belgian yeast. In this recipe the hops act as a quiet backbone, providing balance, elegance and restraint, and allowing the malt and yeast to shine in this Belgian Dubbel classic. Let's now look at our candy sugar addition. Personally I will add this towards the end of the boil, but the most important thing here is around how you do it, as we want to ensure that this sugar does not burn at the bottom of our brewing system, as this could compromise the beer's flavour and could be a great pain when it comes to cleaning too. I suggest you use a hop spider for this task, as you can see here. You can then simply add the candy sugar directly to the hop spider, allowing it to dissolve within. To speed things up a little, I suggest you give the candy sugar a quick stir. This will melt things down nicely. If you are using a counterflow chiller, then be sure to run boiling hot water through it for a couple of minutes to sterilize it prior to cooling. As close to transfer time as possible, you should then sanitize your fermentation vessel using a no-rinse sanitizer. Personally, I use Kegland's Power Sprayer for this task, as it makes the whole process fast and easy and is chemically resistant. It was then time for transfer and yeast pitching. When it comes to Belgian beer, the yeast you use is vitally important. For this recipe I'm using Fermentis BE256, but you could use Lallemand Abbey yeast too. BE256 has a cleaner and smoother Belgian profile with softer fruit esters as well as lower phenolics, so as such it is a popular choice for doubles and strong Belgian ales, where balance is key, but make your own choice here of course. For BE256 I recommend a fermentation temperature of 20 degrees Celsius or 68 degrees Fahrenheit. This keeps the profile clean, which works best with this recipe in my experience of various test batches. I have found this one usually needs about a week to ferment down at this temperature, which should work well for most. As a final note here, whatever you do not use pressure fermentation with this one for at least the first 3 to 4 days, as we do want the Belgian yeast to be able to leave its impression. Let's now take a look at the finished beer, starting with the pour, and I will then go through my personal tasting notes with you. You can see that the pour is a golden amber in colour, but once in the glass the end beer is a darker colour, which is on the way to chestnut brown. The example you see here is totally natural, and no attempts have been made to give it any extra clarity, though it is fair to say that it's starting to clean up nicely. This beer has been under 12 psi of pressure, which is 0.83 bars, and I'm using this pressure for serving too. This example you see here is at around the 3-week point from kegging, and frankly tastes very good already, but this will likely continue to improve over the next couple of months. This beer is best when tasted between 10 to 13 degrees Celsius or 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, as temperatures below this temperature range will hide the dark fruit and malt richness, which is really what this style is all about. Naturally, I waited for the beer's temperature to warm up before providing these tasting notes, starting with aroma. Aroma-wise, this is mostly dominated by fresh malt and caramel flavours, as well as some of that classic Belgian spice from the yeast. Flavour. On entry we find some fairly complex malty sweetness that is layered with caramel and dark fruit, especially plum and fig, which is nicely supported with a cookie-like flavouring in the background, which gives this one a rich quality that I really enjoy. The finish here has a little spice, but this is nice and gentle. Different variations of these flavours await you as you explore down the glass, which will likely include some breadiness and light toffee too. So here are some notes. It should be understood that this beer is not sweet in the same way that, say, a dessert stout can be, but it certainly isn't dry either. It's a comfortable middle ground that holds the richness where it should be for the sake of drinkability, like any good Belgian double does. Much of the work involved in finishing this recipe was around the ratio of malt and caramel flavouring versus the richness and sweetness, which must be in good balance for this style. My final impression is that this is a classic Belgian double, which has a rich layered flavour profile that is malt forward, yeast driven and rather complex without being heavy or overly sweet. So there you have it. Please do let myself and the community know what you think of this video, and then later on, if you brew this, your own tasting notes. It is always appreciated to have feedback. Cheers! I do hope that you found this video useful, informative and interesting. If so, why not consider liking and subscribing? For further support, you can join the channel's Facebook group, and if you would like to support the channel, then check out the channel's merchandise store, as all profits go back into the channel. Until next time, happy brewing!